Hello everyone, welcome back to Gab's Collection, and today I'm going to be showing you this doll that I got at an op shop or a thrift shop or whatever you call it where you're from, and this one comes in her original box. So I was pretty excited when I saw this on the shelf and I picked it up right away, so I'm going to show it to you now. I got this for a really good bargain, and it's in its original box, which is really the best thing about this. But the doll itself is also quite interesting in its own way. So it was made in Italy by Ratti sometime between the 1950s and the 1960s, just about. That's based on research that I did on similar items and information I found on dolls similar to this one. But none of them are exactly the same, it seems. So yeah, maybe they're all unique, or maybe I just haven't come across one that's exactly like this one. So just taking a look at the box. It has Ratti there, and it has these outlines of girls and two mice or rats. Maybe that's why they're called Ratti, or the rat is their emblem for some reason. And you also have Ratti scrolled around the side of the box all the way around. Now at the bottom here, it has these numbers, and I'm not sure what these numbers are, if it's a size thing. It says 242 and 36. And it says Sun Vinyl there at the bottom, and I'm not really sure what that's about either. And here on top of the box it says Brevettato. Now, I don't speak Italian, so I don't know what that means, but if I figure out what it means, I'm going to show it to you on screen right now. And it says made in Italy there, and there is Ratti again at the top. Now, let's open this up. The box opens this way, much like a shoe box, and there is the doll inside. So, for what I've gathered about this doll, it's supposed to represent a Hawaiian girl. And correct me if I'm wrong about this, but that's the information that I found on other websites. So there's this skirt, and it seems to be made of plastic. Sort of like plastic straw or plastic sheets that have been sort of cut up and arranged into a skirt here. These fabric flowers here. Fabric flower there and there, and this waistband here with some more fabric flowers. So the white fabric seems to be faring a bit worse than the red fabric is. So the red fabric is still mostly intact, but the white flowers are a bit torn up and they're deteriorating, sadly. Now, under the skirt, you'll see, well, the remnants of her undergarments. So the undergarments are made from the same white fabric as the flowers, and they have been maybe moth-eaten, or that's just deterioration. But you'll also notice that she has a crier in her belly. Now, I'm going to take the crier out. I've taken the crier out, and I'm just going to tell you that when I got this doll, the crier was in two pieces, and I thought it wasn't working, but apparently the inside bit, the diaphragm bit, was just flipped upside down by whoever owned this before, and that's why it wasn't working. So once I flipped it up right, I glued this top bit on, and the crier works again. So if I flip this upside down, so you heard that squeaking sound? There, so the crier works just as it's supposed to, which is good for something this old. I'm not sure if this is the original crier for this doll, but it does seem like it based on... So there's paint around here, around the belly, and that matches the paint that's on this crier box. So I'm going to assume that that's the original crier for this doll. Now, if you can see there, her eyes, they are sleepy eyes. So if you turn them this way, so if you turn her like this, her eyes will close. Yeah, open and close. Some of her eyelashes are missing, but the sleepy eye mechanism does still work well. Now, another thing with her eyes is that they are flirty eyes. So turn her head, her eyes will move left and right, like that. So those are called flirty eyes. Now, her wig is still very thick, so there's not much hair loss here. I'm not sure if the previous owner ever took this out of the box, but I'm guessing that he or she did, based on something that I'm going to show you later. But the hair is still in pretty great condition. Now I'm not gonna try to take this out of the box because I might damage it, and I'm not really sure how to go about it in a way that won't damage the box or the doll, honestly. So I'm not going to try to take it out of the box, but I'll just try my best to show you everything that's in here. She also has a necklace that looks like it's made of some sort of gold rope or gold twisted fabric there, and she has an earring over here. She have one on the other side? Yes, so she has 2 earrings there, and I'm going to show you close-up pictures of those right now as well. So her face paint is still quite vibrant, so she still has her rouge on and her lipstick and her eyebrows. Her eyebrows still look pretty clean, so overall her face looks quite good. It just needs a bit of a dusting, which I can get to later. The arms still seem to be tight enough to be able to hold a pose, so you could still keep that arm up if you wanted to, but I'm not going to take this out of the box. Now she has this beaded bracelet, and the bracelet is actually wire with beads around it, so I'm going to be careful. I don't want this wire to sort of snap on me because it is quite old. And one thing though that I've noticed about this is that her right leg is all cracked up and it's being glued back together is what it looks like. So perhaps the previous owner did take this out of her original box, and maybe she dropped it or it broke during play, as dolls do, and maybe that's why he or she reboxed it after having fixed the leg so that it wouldn't get damaged again. I'm not so sure. Yeah, I can't be sure. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but the previous owner did manage to glue it back together in a way where you can't really tell at first glance. So when I first saw this in the shop, I didn't really notice the cracks on the legs. Yeah, but they are there if you if you look for more than a few seconds. The pieces seem to be glued together in the right places, but there's a lot of excess glue outside. But that's fine, really, for a piece like this in its original box. I can't really complain, and I got it at such a good price. Now, one thing that I want you to be able to see is her feet, so I'm just gonna unfold this bit now. And there are her feet. So it looks like the left foot has some cracking in it, which I really just noticed now as I was recording this video. But it doesn't look like the foot's gonna fall apart or anything. Now, she has sandals glued onto her feet, and the sandals look like they're made of cardboard. Cardboard with some woven material here for the straps. So the sandals are quite nice and they're still intact, which is good, but they do seem quite delicate, so I'm not going to fiddle with them too much. I'm just going to put this piece back on. I'm not exactly sure what material she's made of, so I was guessing composition at first. I saw some other people say that this is paper mache, but the way that this is cracked kind of tells me that it might not be paper mache. So it might be composition. I was really thinking that it wasn't porcelain, but judging by that sound that I'm hearing, it could very well be a porcelain doll. So I'm not an expert on materials by any means, so if you know something about this doll, this specific doll, please let me know so that I can better understand how to take care of the doll and, you know, how to store the doll properly. One other thing that I'd like to talk about is another doll from Italy that I purchased a few months ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and she struck me as being quite similar to this doll when I first saw this Hawaiian doll in the op shop. So I'm gonna get that other doll out now. Here is my other made in Italy doll, and this one is quite clearly a composition doll. I can tell pretty easily that it's a composition doll by the way it looks, by the way it feels, unlike this one where I'm kind of confused about what it is. So this one was made in Italy as well. It has Furga stamped onto the back of her head, although it's really hard to read, but I can read that it says Furga. And I noticed that her face is quite similar to this one, although this one is made by Ratti, this one is made by Furga. So they're not made by the same company, but it seems that the Italian doll makers at the time had a very similar way of going about things. So this one has her original shoes, it has her socks, and her dress, which I have been told is original as well, and her wig. So her wig is in pretty good condition, so it's still got her original curls in there, and it looks pretty neat. So I try not to hold that part too much so that I don't mess anything up. But for this one, I've had to replace her crier. So her crier was broken, and I couldn't fix it, so I bought this new crier, and it's slightly larger than her old one, so it was a bit of a tight fit, but it still fit inside. And with the new crier, she can cry again. You know? And these undergarments are also original. They are pretty clean, so the previous owner, whoever it was, well, I know who she is. The previous owner whom I bought this from took very good care of her dolls, so that's why this one is in such clean condition. So they're probably about the same age, so 1950s, 1960s-ish, maybe even 1940s, so I'm not quite sure, and these things aren't exact, and we don't have any dates stamped on any of these dolls, so it's very hard to tell. But for this one, her papier-mâché body is falling apart a bit, so I might show you that. On the back, it says Italy there, in case you were doubting whether this doll came from Italy as well. But here on her shoulders, you can see the extent of the deterioration on this. So it looks like it might have been water damaged or something to do with moisture, because the body is sort of warped. But then again, if it was moisture, why wasn't the rest of the body warped as well? So I'm not so sure what happened here. Could have been a temperature thing as well, but there is some warping there. Unfortunately, that warping makes it a bit difficult for her arms to hold a pose. But when you put the dress on, luckily the way that the dress is made makes it so that you can't really see the damage on the rest of the body. So for displaying, she is quite good. And on this one, she has some faded eyebrows, but her lipstick is still pretty vibrant, and her eyes open and close pretty well. And she still has most of her eyelashes intact, this one. So I think she's a pretty good example of an Italian doll, and definitely this one in her original box is a very good example as well. So yeah, I'm pretty happy to have acquired this one. So I acquired this for, should I say how much I bought it for? I bought it for 18 Australian dollars. I'll just tell you. 18 Australian dollars for an antique Italian doll in her original box. So that's a very good deal considering how much I paid for this one. I paid about 50 or 40 for this doll who came without a box. But yeah, this was not from an op shop. So this is from an op shop, so I guess I shouldn't be too surprised that it was so cheap. But I guess I can express my surprise that somebody would donate this, so they probably didn't know what this was or what the value of this was, or maybe they didn't care about the value and they just wanted to donate this to someone who was interested in collecting dolls. That does happen. So yeah, I guess that's all there is to say about these two Italian dolls. Thanks everyone for sitting through that video. This one's a bit different from the other ones that I've done, because the other ones were Star Wars and Simpsons, those pop culture things, and this one is really for those doll collectors out there like me. So I'm also a doll collector, and this isn't depicting a specific character or anything, it's just a doll. So if you'd like me to talk more about the other dolls in my collection, I've got some Australian dolls, other European dolls, I've got some German dolls as well. Do let me know and I will make more videos on those, and do consider subscribing as well if you want to see more of my collection. So yeah, until next time, bye!